Welcome to today's Inner City Capital Connections webinar. We'll just give a moment for folks to join us in the room and we'll get started. Thank you for joining us today. We are happy to have Dr. Janice Greene with us. Dr. Greene retired after a successful career with the Boeing Company, and for 20 years, she led supplier diversity strategy, economic development, and business intelligence initiatives. In August 2017, Dr. Greene became president and CEO of Webec Pacific, creating an exciting opportunity to pursue her passion for economic development for women-owned businesses. Dr. Greene has served on several executive boards, and she has continued to collaborate with several businesses and business development organizations that support diverse companies. As a reminder, if you have any questions, please type them into the question box, and we will try to get to as many questions as possible. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Janice Greene.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me for this presentation. I think certification is very important, and it is a great opportunity for marketing your business, among other things. So I'll go ahead and get started. So Webec certification, and I'm going to talk about Webec certification because I'm with Women's Business Enterprise Council Pacific, and we are the most widely recognized and respected national certification. When I say that, well, of course, there are the women-owned small business. There are many, many certifications, but in the corporate world and in other areas, Webec certification is well trusted because of the process that we go through. So there's no pass-throughs, no people that are pretending to be women or positioning themselves as women and are not. So we have a huge network, and our network is national. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, about how you get into the national network. But we really promote any type of opportunities for women business owners. We certify, we increase the visibility. The visibility is crucial because a lot of our corporate members ask us for certified women businesses in all types of industries. So, and the networking. Some people say, I think many of you heard the saying that your network is your net worth. The networking and mentorship and all of that all comes together and really positions women businesses in the front so that they can actually be seen and heard and have opportunities to bid. So we are also, in addition to that, we are a third-party certifier for the SBA. So that means we're approved, and if you do apply for Webec certification, you'll be able to check another box and say that you want the woman-owned small business certification as well. But when you check that box, or if you want us to do that, the woman-owned small business certification, make sure that you've already registered with the federal government on SAM so that you have that to provide to us as well. A little bit more about Webec Pacific, and Webec Pacific, we have 858 now more certified WBEs, and we have 26% women of color within that whole mix. If you look at our revenue, and the revenue is climbing, we're up to $6.3 billion, and that's in our region. Our region is Alaska, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, and Northern California. So it's the region of Webec Pacific. And you can see how many jobs that we're creating, 38,000, and that number is also climbing. The average of all of those 858, the average revenue, $7 million, and the average years in business, 18. As you can see from the chart on the side, that we're operate in all these are top industries, but we have women business enterprises in almost every industry. You'll see that for the professional science, technical services is the highest, and then we look at administrative support. But we do have quite a few people in construction and manufacturing and wood product manufacturing. So we look at some of those as the more non-traditional field for women, like construction and manufacturing, and we do put quite a bit of focus on that, providing services in those areas and partnering with other organizations to make sure that so to make sure that they have opportunity. This is our map. Now, when I'm showing you this map, because the region, the blue is our region, and you'll see that there's 14 different regions. So there were 14 regional partner organizations. And if you want to be Webec certified, you would go to your RPO, Regional Partner Organization, because we are divided up by region. It's the same exact certification, same process, everything's the same. It's just that you have a home region. But with that, you also have access to what's going on in any other region. We make sure we share information, and we share opportunities across the board. So eligibility is generally the same in most certifications. So we make sure that it's 51% owned, operated, and controlled, and managed by a woman. And this is important because the woman has to be able to control the business. She has to be able to make acquisitions. She has to be able to go for loans. She has to be able to manage a day-to-day operation. She has to be the person that's really in charge. And that becomes an issue sometimes when people try to get certified, because if you have to have unanimous consent, and those folks that you have to have unanimous consent with are male, then you are not able to become certified because you don't meet the requirements. That's just one example. Another thing is they have to have the highest level in the company, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the eligibility of certification criteria. So this is the 51% ownership by one or more women. That's a critical piece. We have to have the proof that the female is in control of the business, as I said before, and all the legal documents and the day-to-day operations and the banking financials, the woman has to have control of. When we talk about the highest defined title in the company's legal documents, this is a place where people run into trouble, because in their legal documents, it may say that the president is the highest defined position in the company, and the woman may have the CEO title, but that's not defined in the legal documents. And this is a place where we run into trouble, and people have to go back and redo their documents, because the woman is actually in control, but the legal documents don't say that she is. And then with capital, and if there's an industry of expertise, so if in fact the woman makes the bulk of the capital contribution, or if it's in an industry like architecture or construction where there's licensing required, she has to demonstrate that she has the expertise to run the business. And we are, of course, are US based, and you need citizenship, you need to be, or a legal resident alien. So that and these women have to constitute the majority ownership. So we always recommend that before you apply, that you go through and look at the website and review the list of documents. And I ask people to make a checklist to make sure that they understand what the standards and procedures are and what are required of them. Some people feel like this is a pretty intrusive process, because we do ask for everything. If you have stock options, or if you have stock, we want to see the stock. If you have a trust, we want to see how the trust is managed. Anything that has to do with the business, we have to see it, and that's why our certification is so trusted. So if you look with these corporations that trust us to provide women business enterprises that are truly owned, operated, and controlled, by the time people go through our process, we know that they are just that. And the time frame for going through this is probably from 30 days to 90 days. We have up to 90 days. And most companies go through quicker than that, but some of the larger companies take quite a bit of investigating to get through. There's a lot of difference between the woman-owned small business certification and the WBE certification. The woman-owned small business has a cap on revenue and the number of people that you can have employed, but they have several different caps. Our certification does not have any caps. So we have women in our network that are billion-dollar businesses. So sometimes when people want to transition, it's good to have both. If you're eligible for the woman-owned small business, I would say make sure that you get it, because for the way that, if I look at my crystal ball right now, I can see that, with President Biden and the Build Back Better, there's going to be a lot of opportunities, and you want to be ready for that and not trying to get this certification after the fact. But I also say that you should go for any certification that you're eligible for. A lot of states, if you're going to do work in a state, you need to go to their Department of Economic Development. In Washington, it's the Office of Minority Women Business Enterprises. If you want to do work in some place like California with the utilities, there's a CPUC. So whatever certifications you're eligible for, if you want to do, I would get those. That way you're prepared. If you get a minority certification, a veteran certification, so there are several of them. So I just leave it there. I think that if you are eligible, you should look to where you want to do business. Make sure you know what the certification requirements are to do business, either with government entities or with corporates, and get those certifications. This is, we're talking about a little bit about how you use your certification. So this is what we would, in Webec, we have the Webec link. That's our database. This gives access to our government, our corporate members, our women business enterprises, so you can see who's in the network. You can see what their industry is. You can get information, and we often go in and we'll pull the information for our corporate and government members, but many of them go in when they're looking for a specific service or product, they'll go in and search for themselves. And then we have the Certified Women Business Enterprise Council seal that you can put on your website, on your Facebook, any social media. And the women-owned small business, then you can use that for marketing, and it's a great way to utilize and leverage your certification. Talk a little bit about the benefits. I think the main thing that you see in the corner is a pathway to new business opportunities. We all know that certification is not a guarantee for business, but it does give you an opportunity, because you get access to procurement executives, you get access to corporations across the country, and you also get access to a lot of the state and local government entities, but you also get access to each other, because we really promote women doing business with other women. You're also eligible for anything that's going on in our region and the national awards. So we have award ceremony, we look at your growth, we look at what you're doing, your capacity to pivot. So there's a lot that goes on in that area. But I think what's really great is the actual networking events and the one-on-ones and the matchmaking. That is where we bring folks together. One of the things we found, we thought we used to do it face to face, and now that we've been in this pandemic environment, what we found is by using the technology that we have, we can actually go deeper into an organization, where before we would be in front of, everybody would be there and we'd be rotating around tables and doing one-on-ones. Now we can actually marry up what that buyer is looking for with what you have to offer, and get 10 or 15 minutes, because they don't have to leave their desk or their house or wherever they are. They don't have to leave. They can just do a short meeting if we match up the requirements. So that's been one of the great things. And I talked about the women-owned logo. So our products, we have a logo that goes on, and I think I'll show it to you a little while later, but we have a logo that can go directly on your packaging, on your product, and it will say women-owned. And as I said before, the seal, you can put it on your marketing to promote your business. You can put that on your Facebook or website or anywhere. The other really one of the things that I found coming from where I came from, out of aerospace industry, and coming into this network, is just how supportive everybody is and how supportive the women are of each other and how they build each other up and provide coaching, they provide mentoring, they do workshops in their field. And so it's been a great thing to watch and a great thing to be a part of. This is kind of the same as I was showing you before. The women owned is down in the that goes on your packaging. That's the symbol that goes on your packaging, and the women owned. So back to the certification process. This is what we advise you to do. Make sure you're eligible. And you do that by what I said before, by making sure that you're 51% owned, operated, controlled. You go through and look at the documents, make a checklist, make sure you have everything that you need before applying. And I do that because our application fee is non-refundable. So make sure that you have everything in order, and it's non-refundable because we have to process it. Whether you get it approved or denied is still the same amount of work for us. The online application is a B2G, and it is safe and it is guarded, and so it's secure. So the information that you provide is secure. The platform that we use is used by government and industry across the United States. And then the final thing that we do is, no, not the final thing, we do a site visit. In the past, we'd always do in-person site visits, at least for the first one, or first maybe three, the first application and then another two certifications. So that's what we would do. We would do that. Now we found that we're much more efficient using technology again. However, once we've gotten through this COVID environment, we will start doing site visits again, but we will probably not do as many as we've done in the past. We'll probably do ones that we think need to be looked into further, because a lot of the women-owned businesses are 100% women-owned, and they don't have any other any other inputs. So that's a lot easier. We may not have to. We can do those continually on our virtually anyway. And then we go through the process. There's a team that looks at everything and they decide whether or not it is a go or not. And we'll notify you if it's a denial, and we also notify you if it's an approval. And there's a process that you can go through. If it's not approved, there's a process that you can go through to appeal. Does anybody have any questions as of yet?
We do. We also have a great comment from an audience member. One of our participants wanted to share that they wanted to throw out there that getting their Webec certification has been a game changer for us at the Pacific Northwest Cookie Company. And then a question that we had was, do we have to complete the certification process to begin having access and use the woman-owned business logo?
Yes, that's proprietary. So yes, you have to complete the process and be approved before you can use that. Yes.
Beautiful. And I have just one other question for you. Another participant asked, if we are eligible to apply for multiple certifications, is there a certification that you would recommend to go after first?
Of course, Webec. Let me. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about certifications. So the Webec certification, NMSDC certification, and there's a veteran certification and one for the LGBTQI community, and one for disabilities. So you have these 5 certifications that corporations use, especially if they want to be in the $1 billion roundtable. And the $1 billion roundtable is an elite group of corporations that spend at least $1 billion in diverse community. So those are the only ones that are accepted for that. But I would say look at who your market is. So Webec, NMSDC, all of these certifications are great when you're working with corporations. Some corporations, they want that certification. our certifications, the 5 I just said, they want those, and that's how they get into the bill. That they're the only certifications that the $1 Billion Roundtable accepts. And some organizations, depending, will, if they're doing government contracting, they want the woman-owned small business certification as well. They need that. And then, like I said, in the different, if you're woman-owned, I would say get the WBE and the WOSB. Those would be my recommendations. Minority owned, I get the Minority Business Enterprise certification and the Women Business Enterprise certification. You don't know all the time what people are looking for, because sometimes I get calls and they'll ask me, do I have any minority owned women businesses in a specific industry? Or sometimes, they'll want women business enterprises in a specific industry. So if you can get the cost, so there's a cost to Webec certification. There is a cost to all the 5 that I told you. There's a cost to those. There's not a cost to the woman-owned small business, a lot of the government certifications or the state certifications or the CPUC. So I would look at getting those as well. I think it's best to be prepared, because you don't want to go chasing a certification when there is a contract opportunity on the table, and that contract opportunity may be 2 weeks, and then you run to try to chase a certification. So I would get them, and I would get as many of them as apply to you. That would be my recommendation. And I know it's a pain sometimes because it is a lot of documentation. But I would take something like, if you're doing the Webank certification, I keep all that documentation together because they're similar, maybe a little bit of change, but a little bit of difference. But I would say the MBE certification is pretty close to the WBE certification, and it's good to just go ahead and make sure that you have that. I would just keep it all together and go for those certifications.
Beautiful, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So when people talk about cost, our cost is based on annual revenue, and it's a sliding scale. So you'll see under $1 million is $350, and over 50 million is $1,250. And so you should identify the range your company revenues fall into, and you'll do that by your tax returns. These are the documents that are required, and I know that, I get calls because people think it's intrusive. They don't want to share their tax information. They don't want to share their employee information. There's information that people do have a hard time deciding whether or not they want to share. All I can say is it's a requirement. So when you get ready to say whether or not you want to do the Webank certification, just realize that the things that are listed are a requirement. And it's not by RPO to RPO. It's at the national level. So at the national level, they determine the certification requirements. They determine all of that. In the regional partner organizations like ours, what we do is we actually administer it, but we can't make changes. And I'm a little heavy on this document thing because it becomes a stumbling block for people. So when you look at this and you go back and make sure you have all your documents together, make sure this is what you want to do, because we're not going to be able to, when you call and say that you don't want to provide this or you don't want to provide that, know that we don't have that decision-making ability. There's a certification committee that's made of corporations, a national certification committee made up of corporations and others, and they make those decisions and they make the changes as required. So I'm sharing with you now. This is the center. The center, all the different RPOs. You'll see we're down here, Webec Pacific, but if you're in Southern California, you're going to go to Webec West. And so these are all the affiliates across the across the country. Very open, very easy to deal with. If there's opportunities for you to go to any one of their events, I recommend that you go to their events, especially if you're trying to do business in that region. So we have a local feel and a national reach, and we can reach out to any of these RPOs and the national organization and get assistance. Oh, just about done. So I wanted to share with you this is one of the newer things that have come out of Webec, and it's getting ready to be Mother's Day, so I'm promoting this. It's a woman-owned gift guide, and in this women-owned gift guide, Webec has put together products from our women business enterprises, and I think if I can make, hold on a minute. Products from our women's business, from it's if you hopefully you can see this, but there we go. But you'll see that we got cocktail suites, gift baskets. These are all women-owned products. And if you get a chance, take a look for Mother's Day or any other time. But like we said, we try to support women as much as we can, and this is one of the ways that we can do that. So it's very well done, Webec. And we have a lot of our Webec Pacific folks in here, and little stories and let you know what it is. And these products, like I said earlier, you can put the label, the woman-owned label, on there, and we will definitely be promoting them. So that's pretty much all I have as far as certification. I'm open to any questions.
We have a few people curious to how long the certificate is good for.
It's good for 1 year. It's good for 1 year, and then you do a recertification.
Beautiful. And in the pandemic, when revenues have dropped for many small businesses, are you offering any discount for businesses that fall in the under $1 million category?
Not at this time, we aren't. I think the $350 is reasonable for us anyway. And we do have some corporations that will sponsor, that have offered to sponsor women business enterprises, but for us, we haven't been able to do that. It hasn't been reasonable for us to do that because that's part of the income how we keep our doors open. But we do have corporations that have offered to do sponsorships.
Thank you. And how long does the application process take before the application is approved or denied?
Depends on how complicated the business is. So if it's a sole entrepreneur or one person or two or three women that own the business, if there's no complications in their finances or the way that they're structured, it will probably take somewhere around 30 to 40 days. If it is very complicated and you've got stocks and trusts and multiple owners, those type of things, that can take up to 90 days. We're supposed to get we're supposed to get everything out by 90 days. I say right now we're averaging probably averaging 30 to 35 days. But that means that we do have some that reach close to the 90 days.
Great. Some of our participants noticed that you mentioned Webec and Wosb certification, and they'd like to learn a little bit more about the difference between those two certifications and if they're the same price to get both on the same application.
Yes, excuse me. So Webec certification certifies you as a WBE through Webec. And the WOSB is a federal certification, women-owned small business. So we would charge you for the Webec certification, And if you qualify as a woman-owned small business, we don't charge you for that. We don't charge you for that. The government doesn't charge you for that. I think personally, I say that we're a little bit more efficient. We do it quicker, but there's no charge for that. So it's on and it's on the same application. But people can qualify for Webec certification and not qualify for the woman-owned small business certification. There's some differences in like how many hours that you work and so there's some little differences in what the requirements are for the woman-owned small business. So I would check that out too to make sure you meet those requirements. And as I said before, if you're going to go for both the Webec certification and the woman-owned small business certification, just do them at the same time. I would say do them at the same time.
Beautiful, thank you. Folks are asking, once a certification is obtained, how long is the waiting period for the entity in order to pursue a federal contract?
Okay, so the WBE certification that Webec does is not for federal contracting. The woman-owned small business is for federal contracting. So if you're pursuing federal contracts, you need the woman-owned small business certification. But if you're asking, I mean, you're able to pursue those contracts as soon as you get your WOSB certification. There's no lag in that. But with the women business enterprise, that's more on the commercial side. So you'll be looking to do business with companies like Microsoft and T-Mobile, Intel, like those type of companies. When you're working with the woman-owned small business, then they're looking to do something with the federal government or federal government contractors. So you would be eligible like for a Boeing or a Lockheed or anybody that's doing federal contracts. And you would be surprised how many people are actually doing federal contracts, and even like the mail, if they're carrying mail or anything, they're going to have to report to the government on what they're doing in the woman-owned small business arena.
Thank you so much, Janice. Another participant is asking if you wouldn't mind going back and elaborating a little bit more on the billion-dollar table that you referred to early in the presentation.
Yeah, the billion-dollar roundtable is an organization that's been around for a while. So you'll find companies that like AT&T and Microsoft, major corporations, multinationals, and others, even like I think PG&E in California, a smaller company, they spend $1 billion with diverse suppliers, with the 5 certifications that I was talking about. And a lot of our corporations, that's one of their goals. They want to be part of the $1 billion roundtable. They want to spend $1 billion with certified diverse suppliers, and the $1 billion roundtable only counts those 5 certifications. So you could have a WOSB certification, but it will not count for the $1 billion roundtable or any of the other certifications, just those 5. They do research, they print, they do best practices. There's quite a bit that they do, and a lot of the corporations want to be a part of that. But you have to meet those requirements before you can be a part.
Thank you. And we have some more questions. We have a participant who's asked if you could share how small businesses could contact organizations that could sponsor a small business membership.
I am going to, so I don't know the region, but if you can send me an email and I can get you in contact with the region that you're part of. So that would be probably the most likely way to do that. Because each of the region has different, we all have different members, different memberships, so different corporate members and a little bit different strategic plans with those corporate members and our board members. So we work together, but we're all standalone 501c3s. So we're all standalone organization, but we're affiliated with Webank, and we do that affiliation agreement with them.
Beautiful. And how can one locate the company profile listed in the directory that you shared? And how does one achieve getting listed on that directory?
Well, they update it. So they curated it, and this is something, so they come to us, all of us in the RPOs, and ask us for who we have in our organizations that provides these types of goods, and we send it in, and they choose some, they can't do everybody at the same time, but they do put people in, and then what they do is they update it as well. The link to this is in this presentation, and I think Nadia, you could share that.
Yes, we'll be following up in an email with the slides.
Okay, so there's a link to there, and then so when if you're part of Webec, or you're Webank certified, you can get notification or let your RPO leader know that you're interested in being part of this, and we get that information over to Webank.
Wonderful. And is your organization still accepting corporate partners now?
Oh yeah. We're always accepting corporate partners. In fact, we're building our organization as far as our corporate. We've got some new folks that just came on. Skanska just came on. Logitech just came on. We're actually building the corporate partners and building the sponsorship and building their involvement. We have a brand new platform that we just launched where we have industry groups. So we just kicked off the construction industry group. So some of our women-owned construction leaders talk to some of the newer construction folks, and we start that network, but we're also going to be inviting Skanska to come in. This is a place where we can actually go to market, where they can tell us what they're looking for, and we can have the right people in the right room. One of the things that we're really working on is making sure that we're targeting our efforts, so that if our corporate members tell us that they're looking for, say they're looking for somebody that can do, I don't know, manufacturing sheet metal, then we would look through our database and we would find people that can do sheet metal, so that we can be more targeted on what they're looking for. It's a little bit different than when we were in person, where we'd have the big matchmaking and everybody came and tried to talk to all the corporations. I think we'll go back to that, because I think there's something to be said for that level of networking, but I think we'll do it in hybrid. So if people tell me specifically what they're looking for, I can go through, look at the NAICS codes, I can go through and see what their business background is, and I can do a much better job of giving that corporation what they're looking for, and also making sure that the women business enterprise is in the right market with that particular organization.
Wonderful. And if you run your business from home, how do you conduct those site visits that you mentioned previously in the presentation?
Well, actually, we used to go to people's homes. That was when I first took this job, I tagged along with the site visitors, and one of them was at home. And so we just met the woman there, and we just talked through her business, and she just, that was that. Now we've been doing virtually. I don't know if what we're going to go back to in the future, but I think it's going to be some type of hybrid as well. So site visits for us sometimes get a little cumbersome, because we have Alaska and Montana, and I don't know if you've ever been to Montana, but to get to one side of Montana to the other side is quite a drive.
I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Janice, we have just one more question for you. And
Sure.
we have a participant who is curious on some stats. If you wouldn't mind sharing some stats on business opportunities and how many contracts, or if you can estimate how many contracts a year do members receive versus folks who don't necessarily have those certifications in place?
I don't think I can estimate that, actually. Let me see. So I really, I really can't say. What I can say is that we have a lot of corporations that reach to us and ask for a list of people in certain industries, and we send that back. We also know that we can see that the growth in the revenues and the base in our base, but we don't, as far as contracts, we don't really track the contracts, and many of the corporations won't give you that information. And then the WBEs aren't able to really share too much either because they sign an NDA, and not all corporations really want you to know who's in their supply base for whatever the reason. I know when I was at Boeing, we weren't allowed to share that, although you could probably go to the web and look it up, but we weren't allowed to share that information. So I can say from my perspective, I think that you have you're more likely to get a contract using your Webec certification because you're more likely to be able to talk to those decision makers face to face, and you'll have us also to interface as well. And then the women business enterprises that we have, they refer each other. If it's not something that's in their, it's not their industry, but they know somebody that's really good at that, they'll do that referral as well. So as far as a number or percentage, I can't share. I don't know. Not exactly. I just watch the trends.
No worries. Thank you for sharing more about that. We actually just received a few more questions. I have a participant asking, what is the pathway after getting the WBE or WOSB certification to acquire the Hubzone certification?
Yeah, the Hubzone certification is a federal certification. We do not offer that, but you can get that you can go to the SBA website and get that, and that's dependent on your zip code, or whether you feel it's a depressed area. And so that's something that you apply for, and it can change because it may no longer be a depressed area. Native American, the reservations, those are always, at least they used to always be considered hub zones. So it's a certification that if you're qualified for, I would go ahead and get that too, because sometimes people are, especially in government contracting, they're looking for hub zones, but you'll have to go through the SBA website to get that.
Great, thank you. And what is the name for the no-cost woman-owned business certification, and where could we find more information on that?
The woman-owned small business, you can go to the SBA again. They have the woman-owned small business. Like I said, we're a third-party certifier for that, and we don't charge for the woman-owned small business, but we do charge for WBE. But if you want to go straight through, just want a WOSB certification, you can go to the SBA website and apply for a woman-owned small business certification. So in the government realm, there's a woman-owned small business, and if you're working with Department of Transportation, there's a DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, the Hubzone, the Minority Business or SDB, Small Disadvantaged Business. There's quite a few certifications if you go to the SBA and fill out that information. And there's no charge for that. That's what I was saying earlier about making sure that I would say you have both, because you want to do government contracts, you're going to need those government certifications. If you want to do state work, you're going to need the state certifications. If you want to do business with corporations, I think ours is the better one for that. But we also have like government agencies that partner with us, like the state of Washington, like Sound Transit. So we have, and counties. So we have government agencies that work with us as well.
Wonderful. And if you can touch upon a little bit more on what are some of the reasons for an application being denied?
Sure. Big reason, one of the number one reasons is that the woman is not the highest defined, doesn't hold the highest defined position in the paperwork. That's one of the ones. The other is that she is not able to make decisions without her male counterpart, so she can't acquire another business, she can't sell the business, she can't get a loan or any of that. Or sometimes the paperwork says your bylaws say that this woman owns 80% of the company. She's put the bulk of the money, the financials in, and then their paperwork says that she can't do any of those things that I just mentioned. She can't buy, she can't sell, she can't do anything without having unanimous consent, meaning that everybody, they may only have 20%, but if they have to have a vote, she can't make a decision, then it's not operated by controlled and operated by the woman. So those are some of the major, so people need to check their paperwork, because sometimes and they go back and they fix it, but sometimes people use the boilerplate, like, Rocket Lawyer or something like that, to do their paperwork, and they're not, and the woman has been running this business for years, but there's little clauses in that paperwork that need to be redefined in order for her to really be the one that's owned, operated, and controlled. You would be surprised how many women are kind of shocked that they don't have the control, because they've been controlling everything. But the devil is in the details sometimes.
Indeed. Well, I have one final question, unless folks enter any more in the last few minutes. But we have a participant who's asking that if are all NCIS code accepted in all certifications? I apologize if we butchered that acronym, Janice.
Yeah, NAICS code, I know. It's the North American Industry Classification System is what it is. And so when you ask about are all, there are some things that we don't really certify, and they're more like home businesses. Like, we likely wouldn't certify a beauty shop, unless it's something that is franchised or something that goes across, that has multiple locations. That would probably, so those type of businesses we may not certify, but we have to look at all of the requirements. But we have people in just about every NAICS code in every industry. For example, like a Jean Juarez type of, if he was a woman, we would look to certify them. But if it is just a woman beauty shop, one woman beauty shop, and that is located, we wouldn't look to certify that type of business, and because it wouldn't be really a benefit to them either, I don't believe. But just about every, if I go back to the slide that I was, excuse me.
No problem.
Me and technology sometimes. But if we look at, some of the things that this slide I'm going to go back to. This one, you'll see these are our top ones, the top industries, but we have women in just about every industry that there is.
Wonderful. And it looks like we're still getting some questions in. We have some folks wondering if there is a minimum amount of revenue that you must have in order to go after certifications.
No, there's not a minimum amount of revenue. Generally, I will say most of the women that are certified with us have been in business maybe 3 years or so. And it's not that we say you can't come in unless you've been in 3 years, you make a certain amount of money. It depends on where you are in your business, whether or not you think it is a good idea for you to come in and be part of the network. We don't generally work with startup companies, but we do work with business development centers, and we partner with others that can help with business plans, growing your business, marketing, all of that early stages of business. We partner with several people that help with that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we have another participant who specifically provides entertainment, and they're wondering if it's worth the time and effort to get certified if they're providing entertainment for a small region, and particularly this participant provides entertainment in Hawaii. So would it be worth the time and effort to get certified in their region?
That'd be Webec West. And I will say that we have this year we've had some great entertainment, folks. Our last event that we did for our award ceremony, it was produced by someone. I mean, it kind of depends on your market. And I'm not really sure about Hawaii, but I know that in Washington and California, and we've really used a lot of entertainment type companies because a lot of it had to do with pivoting from in face meetings to virtual meetings and kind of make it happen, make it pop. And the people that one of the ones, Mode Studios, who did our event, they used to do huge entertainment events and TED Talks and all that. And now they have taken all of that and brought it into a place where they can do, they just, just the same type of thing, but in a virtual platform. And I find it's very enlightening to see what people can do with entertainment. So I would say if you're in Hawaii, I would look at your market. I would look and see. I would also see if you're not working outside of Hawaii, I don't know, you've got some major entertainment industries. I would just check and see if I would check their website. I would check with them and see whether or not they are looking for a WeBank certification or anything that's woman owned. And if it's state, again, I also look at the state certification.
And would that apply for folks who provide entertainment, but to specific niche markets that might not be so large? Like, let's say this company operates in Oregon, but they specifically provide Hawaii entertainment. Would it be worth their time to get certified as well? Would you answer this question similarly?
I would answer it similarly. I think everybody needs to be aware of their market and who they're targeting. And so if you're doing like Hawaiian entertainment in Oregon, and you're going to want to pitch that to someone like Intel, who's a member, they're a member of our board and also a member. So if you're going to pitch it to somebody like Intel, that would be great if you had that WBE certification because they look for that, right? So that's what I said. I would want to know a little bit more about who you're marketing to. If you're pitching it to the state of Oregon for some of their events, you want you want to make sure that you have the Oregon certification, state of Oregon or certification. So it does you well to look at who your target market is. I said a little earlier, I think you should have any certifications that you should have them because you don't know when you're going to need them. And it's always best to have them when you need them rather than try to chase them when the opportunity comes up. So that would be my advice. And I don't know, so I can't give any kind of detailed advice unless I know a little bit more about that. But if you're in Oregon, you're in my region, then you can reach out to us.
Wonderful. And with that, we will also direct folks who have any questions specifically for their specific industry and opportunities for your business. I know this slide deck included the different chapters, and we would recommend you to reach out to the different regional chapter to connect to learn a little bit more about the opportunities that you may have.
Yeah, I think this last slide here, it includes their website, and you can see on the map where you fit in, and they are always willing to reach out and help and give some information about their specific region.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Janice. You have been a great help, and it's a great way to connect with these regional Webec chapters. But we are so happy to have you join us here today to teach us a little bit more about the value of certifications and for such a wonderful webinar and an intimate Q&A session.
Well, thank you for having me. I encourage you all to reach out to your regional partner organization, maybe do a little research about what we do on the web and what the requirements are. And if you're in my region, feel free to reach out. And I'm sure if you're in other regions, they would definitely love to hear from you.
Amazing. Well, thank you again for joining us today. And as a reminder for those who tuned in, this webinar was recorded and it will be available on our website. We'll also be sharing a follow-up email with you folks tomorrow that include the slide deck that Dr. Janice Greene provided us today. We also organize these webinars based on participant feedback, so please be sure to take the survey at the end of this session. Again, thank you so much, Janice, for joining us today, and thank you all for joining us for this session. Please be well and healthy and have a wonderful day. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.